Woohoo! Welcome, welcome. It's always fun to see everybody appearing into this fairly miraculous room that connects us around the world. So, thank you, one and all, for joining us to celebrate the virtual launch of the world's first restorative city framework. Woohoo! Um, I'm Dr. Evelyn Zellerer, founder and director, Piece of the Circle, which is the independent organization hosting and providing the leadership team for this initiative, Restorative Vancouver. Over this next hour, you'll hear from five of us sharing highlights of our journey in Vancouver and of this framework. There's 40 organizations participating on our restorative collective, which continues to evolve and grow. And while we won't name everyone who's been involved, I would love to, that would take most of the hour. Our website does have a page dedicated to the collective, and you'll see in the first 3 pages of the framework, it's a thank you section. So lots of people are named. So some of them are joining us here, and others are with us in spirit. So I will now turn it over to my amazing colleague and Indigenous elder, Norm Leech. And I thank you, Norm, for starting us off in a good way and offering us a land acknowledgement.
Búchnochtach, Evelyn. Gaspa snack nukwa, Norman Leech, and Squatchy Tleatlet Muscan, Statly Muscan, Amity, Atkantumus Anna. So, thank you, Evelyn. My name is Norm Leech. I'm from Tleatlet of the Statlim Nation, and it's very good to see you all here now. I always begin by acknowledging the land itself first, because our relationship with the land is primary. It is necessary. And to understand an original relationship is to know that she is not property. She is a relative, an ancestor, uh, and she is our first grandmother. And she has gifted us everything that we or our ancestors have ever eaten or drank or used as medicine or shelter. And so we know that every cell and molecule of our bodies is also a gift from her and will return to her in the end. And that gifting of everything forever, without question or limit or condition or interruption, is the definition of love. So we know that we are loved by the land every second of our lives, every cell of our bodies, forever. And so we know that we are never alone. And it's not actually possible for us to be alone if we're on the land. And so, having acknowledged the many gifts of the land and the love of the land, we acknowledge her oldest grandchildren, where I'm sitting in so called Vancouver. Here it has been the Hamochweam and the Skohomish and the Salal Latos people who have received the love of these lands and returned that love in kind with their labor by caring for these lands in such a good way that they were better than new when the explorers arrived. The salmon runs were the biggest, the forests were the biggest, the caribou herds, the buffalo herds, everything was beyond the imagination of the explorers when they arrived here because of the good work of the people in returning the love of the land and caring for her and managing and protecting and defending when necessary. So we give thanks and we express our gratitude for all the gifts that we've already received as humans, the gifts of everything. And that hopefully also instills in us a sense of obligation and duty and perhaps commitment to return the favor of the land and to care for and to protect and to do our best to leave these lands as good as or better than they were provided to us. So with that, I say takum shnaknukwa, all my relations. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you so much, Norm. Absolutely everything we do is guided by Indigenous and restorative ways of being. We know that we can't get to a good place unless we go in a good way. The chat is open and available to you all throughout the meeting. So we do invite you to say hello, introduce yourself, let us know where you're calling in from. We did have an unexpected little minor tech glitch. You may notice your name is not your name, so we also invite you to rename yourself to your name or a name that you would like to have shown. It's up to you. And we do have two of our team members, Karim and Zoe, who are here to support all of us, including in the chat. So again, feel free to connect with us and each other through the chat. We are incredibly grateful for the tremendous response to this. And I know we have folks joining us from near and far across many time zones. So at this time, I will briefly provide a few highlights and key moments of our journey this far and help everybody land and be caught up with us. So it actually started because Vancouver does not have a community-based restorative justice program. This is obviously a huge gap in essential services. Only youth who are adjudicated in court have access to a restorative process through probation. It's voluntary for all parties. Thankfully, we do have an Indigenous justice program, and we are very grateful that they and many Indigenous leaders are participating with us. We have committed to decolonizing and upholding the inherent sovereignty and rights of Indigenous peoples. So in 2020, Peace of the Circle received a grant from the Ministry of Public Safety and Solicitor General to do a project. And we decided to strategically focus on building partnerships through extensive outreach to leaders across the whole city. A diverse, impressive group gathered for the first virtual circle in 2021. And most have kept coming to subsequent meetings, while we have continued to spend a lot of time and energy on further building relations and partnerships. And it was successful grant applications that have allowed us to keep going. All our meetings are facilitated in Circle. And through time, we did move from online in the first couple of years to since then all in person. And most of them are 3 hours. And so we are pretty bold in our asks and what's remarkable. And so I guess I'm inviting you, don't hesitate to be bold and brave. And people are showing up and committing a tremendous amount of time and energy for, again, we're just so grateful. So the question we initially were grappling with was, how do we effectively address conflict, harm, and crime in a multicultural large city to create safety, justice, and peace while decolonizing and honoring Indigenous laws, peoples, and nations? Just in case you're a visual learner like me and you'd like to know, I just put that in the chat. And really, we literally create our reality. So the question is, what do we wish to create? And so I will add that. I'm very visual, so I might occasionally pop things in the chat, and you're welcome if it feels resonant for you to engage with that. And that's really what we're talking about. What do we want to create? And there's certainly multiple crises and a lot of need. We are experiencing increasing polarization, a rise in hate crimes, deaths due to toxic drug overdoses, homelessness, environmental harms like contamination of this beautiful ocean that we live beside, and more. So instead of focusing on one issue or a program, the group that was meeting, which is now named the Restorative Collective Vancouver, came to a consensus to, in their words, go big and become a restorative city. A city councillor was participating with us, Michael Wiebe, who is here with us today, and he offered to put forward a motion on our behalf. So with our speakers and letters of support, City Council passed the motion in 2022, making Vancouver the first in Canada to commit to becoming a restorative city. So this was one big moment in our journey, and woohoo! So I want to hear from Mike, since you're here. Thank you so much. If you want to briefly share, as a counselor at that time, why did you support us? And perhaps more broadly, why would political leaders support a restorative initiative?
Yeah, thanks, Evelyn, for the introduction, and thanks, Norm, always for grounding us. I love every time I hear stories about where I am, and when I look outside, I see things differently because the way you kind of share your views of the world, and I just love that. I think the fact that the area was more beautiful before colonization is just such a beautiful picture to have when I look at the fish in the stream, think how much more we had before colonization. So again, thanks for grounding us. For myself, I think the big conversation for me is I was sitting at city council, and we had a really big push kind of 2020 on the defund policing and movement here in Vancouver and decriminalizing poverty. So we had multiple counselors bringing motions. We had a lot of conversation at council. We probably heard from 700 speakers over multiple motions and topics about how do we increase policing and how do we get hard on crime, but also on the other side, how do we decriminalize poverty and how do we defund? And what I wasn't hearing was a solution that was community-based that was actually going to deliver on what people wanted, which safe, connected communities. And so we heard this really divisiveness happening at the council where people were really emotional, but we weren't coming up with a solution that was going to work. And so we pulled together a town hall which had Norm as a speaker and Evelyn as a speaker. And this was just in parallel when she got the original $50,000 to pull people together. So the conversation was talking to a whole bunch of different groups on, and we had over 100 people from community. It was not an easy conversation to have. It was a really difficult one that needed a lot of people to make sure we were managing the chats and managing conversations because it was so polarized at that time. It was right at that peak. And one of the things that I really enjoyed in that conversation was the openness to looking for solutions. The community policing was getting attacked at the call, and they said, "Hey, why don't you come volunteer one day with who we are before you attack us?" And that really changed a lot of people afterwards to say, "You're right, I'm attacking something without even doing one day of volunteer there, being a part of it." And then we started to talk about solutions. And that's what I think the town hall shifted. And I think that's where people got excited. And that's where politicians can get excited because we hear the issues and it's so hard when you don't have answers. And over the last 5 years, we've been coming up with an answer that is community-based and centric. And I think that is why politicians can gravitate to this. It's not easy to understand. And I think that's something that we're asking for people's help on is it's a complicated subject. System change is not easy and it needs to be ground up, as well as bringing the elected officials to the table as much as we can. So we've done a great job in always ensuring that the elected officials and chief of staff and staff are involved in this process because it is a longer process to continue to learn, and we need support from every arm of government and every element. So we've been in silos. There's so many people doing great work, and as a council, you see that. So just happy to be a part of this movement. And I think it's continuing to grow and love to see so many people from around the world joining the call today.
Fabulous. Thanks, Mike. And thanks for staying with us all these years. You're a huge gift for us. And yes, as Mike said, we're very much focused on solutions and being strength-based. And so the question is, as Mike said, when we proclaim to become a restorative city, well, what's that? What's a restorative city? And that's what we've been immersed in for the last 3 years in answering. So, Piece of the Circle received a contract from the City of Vancouver to develop a restorative city framework. While Vancouver is the first city in Canada, there are others on this journey. I co-chair an international working group on restorative cities with the European Forum for Restorative Justice with representatives from 12 countries. And I see some of my colleagues here. Thank you for joining us from multiple countries. I'm thrilled to see you. And I actually had thought someone else had written a framework already. It turns out not yet. And so we became the first framework in the world. And wow, no pressure, no huge responsibility in writing this first one. So as with everything we do, I also took a restorative approach to developing the framework. So visioning occurred through many, many restorative collective meetings. We formed small working groups on different sectors and different questions, did a lot of research and talked to some colleagues around the world. We went to ceremony. We are really drawing upon decades and decades of experience. Of course, there are many complexities to this work. It's a big vision. It's a bold movement of bringing folks together across multiple sectors. And of course, it's political, yet we are purposefully cross-partisan. So we're working with all the different political parties, different governments, and First Nations. So for this first framework, we ended up choosing 10 streams of implementation. And the task for us was to write something that was accessible so people could understand what this is and also give practical examples. And we were asked to do this in only a couple of pages for each section. So hundreds of pages were written and deleted. And we know throughout this process that we are in the midst of creating something that's never existed. So any definitions and answers are challenging. And we want to ensure that this framework is known as a live document. And we did reach another historic moment and accomplishment. We finished the framework. And in November 2025, Norm Leech and I presented our inaugural Restorative City Framework to City Council and senior staff, and we did it in Circle, which was in and of itself a beautiful moment, and it was the first time for Council to be meeting in Circle, and it was very, very well received. So that was another celebration for us. We had anticipated city funding for implementation as a next step, which unfortunately did not occur for their 2026 budget, but we've persevered. We're not giving up. We're moving forward, and in 2026, what we've been doing so far is focusing on presenting our framework to our key leaders and partners, including provincially. And we recently hosted our in-person release of the framework with the collective and guests on June 10th. We facilitated a big, beautiful circle of 60 people. It was a beautiful event. And at that event, the Social Planning and Research Council of British Columbia honored us with 3 awards in recognition of our leadership and contribution to public safety, community building, and positive social change. I'm also delighted to announce some other good news. Hot off the press, the Ministry of Public Safety and Solicitor General is providing a $100,000 civil forfeiture grant for us to continue this work, along with a $50,000 grant through the Law Foundation for the Hastings Sunrise Restorative Neighbourhood Project, which brings us to today. So the virtual launch. Thank you again for joining us. You will all receive a digital copy of the framework. And what I will do right now is very briefly screen share it for you. And I'm just going to highlight a couple of things. Again, we trust that you'll engage with it in a multitude of ways over time. And perhaps a drum roll, I don't know. But we have now also put it on our website. This is our gift to everybody. You can see, and we'll give you the link. And also, if you want a PDF of it, we will be emailing it to you. But it's a simple click, and it will bring us and you to the framework itself. And so, again, not for you to read it, but just for you to get a visual as we launch it here into the world. And as I said, the 3 pages are listing lots of amazing folks that have been involved and contributing to us. And the table of contents is one place I'll pause at. And so you'll see what we're offering is a summary of what is a restorative city, why do we need it, and how do we do it is incredibly important. And I'm very, very proud of what we created as guideposts. At the very center of it all is these guideposts being guided by, and this is a combination of Indigenous sacred laws, restorative values and principles, evidence-based research, and inspiration from great leaders. So we will go over those in different ways with materials that we'll offer, plus online events if you're interested. And if you are interested in anything in particular, please go ahead and put it in the chat. And then you'll see in the framework, we provide a summary of the team and our approach and what we've done. And then, as mentioned, there's 10 implementation streams that we offer, centering Indigenous and natural laws. We still need our citywide restorative justice program, working with neighborhoods, education, libraries, policing. A shout out to the Vancouver Police Department. We just met with the chief of police and the entire executive yesterday, and they are very supportive of what we're doing, partnering with others in the legal system, and not only with people, but with land and water. And it's an invitation to how do we govern? So hopefully you'll engage. Oops, it's also hyperlinked. So the table of contents, don't mind me scrolling away here, will take you to wherever you want to go. And I accidentally went somewhere. Um, and so this is a visual graphic for those who are visual like myself. And I want to say thank you to Sam Brad, who's an amazing visual and graphic designer and facilitator. So you'll see at the center, and again, you'll be getting this, and we'll be splashing this around as well for those of you who would like it. At the center, as mentioned, is what guides everything, and including a team. You know, this will never go forward if you don't have a dedicated group of people who are also skilled and resourced to move it all forward. And then around the outside are what we call streams of implementation. And in terms of what it is, I will only highlight a couple of things in our summary. You know, for us, a restorative city is safe, clean, and vibrant, and where we live in ways that promote the well-being of all. Fundamentally, being restorative is about recognizing our interconnectedness, appreciating the gifts that come from our diversity, and fostering respectful, just relations. This does emerge from the field of restorative justice, and you'll see we talk about this in the framework of what it is, and that our vision is that a restorative system becomes a first response with the legal system as an option for those who choose or require it. And it goes beyond justice. And so we're inviting folks to be restorative with everyone, everywhere, all the time. And this is a journey about us creating a better future by bringing out the best of our shared humanity. So I will stop screen share, and you're invited to join us, of course, in bringing this vision to reality. And through these last 5 years, and it's also a celebration really of our 5-year anniversary of meeting, we've also been implementing. And so the Restorative Collective came to a consensus to build restorative neighborhoods as part of becoming a restorative city. And they chose Hastings Sunrise as the first neighborhood. 3 organizations came together to lead that project: Hastings Sunrise Community Policing Center, Frog Hollow Neighborhood House, and Peace of the Circle. So let's hear now from Executive Director of Hastings Sunrise Community Policing Center, Claire McGugan, to share a little bit about this neighborhood project. It's, of course, explained in one of the streams in the framework, and our plan is to host an event specifically about restorative neighborhoods. But a sneak preview for now, I'll hand it over to you, Claire. Thank you so much. As a founding member of the collective and one of our core team members, so grateful for you, Claire.
Thanks, Evelyn. The feeling is very mutual. Evelyn's energy is contagious. I think everyone's starting to learn that. So the Hastings Sunrise Community Policing Center in Vancouver, for those people who don't know it, our model of community policing is very unique, and it's not run or operated by the police department. It's operated by nonprofits, and it's very much about community engagement. And so it's a good fit in terms of what Evelyn's been talking about, what Norm's talking about. And so when we were asked to participate in the pilot project, which is now an ongoing restorative initiative in our neighborhood, it was hard to say no. And so the three organizations come together in September 2023. We together selected 16 peacemakers, and we had a meeting with them. And what was interesting, most of those people hadn't met before. And so we at that point kind of try to get a sense of what we needed to do to make Hastings Sunrise a restorative neighborhood. And what we quickly learned is we were already doing a lot of restorative practices, and that came through clearly through our first meeting. And so out of the 16 facilitators that were brought on, 15 continue to participate as peacemakers in our neighborhood today. So so that for us is success, and just that we've had continuity of the people involved. And like Evelyn was saying, we received a grant in 225, which helped us to get the initiative started. And we established a leadership working group that's met over 60 times. And that group is representatives from Frog Hollow, Peace of the Circle, and the Community Policing Center. And we together have kind of moved this initiative along. And our facilitators have had over 60 hours of training, and they come from all sorts of walks of life. And we meet with them on a regular basis. We have gatherings just to keep up our relationships and to move things forward. We together have done 32 dialogue circles since we started and had over 300 participants within Hastings Sunrise. Norm and some other people have done other things outside of Hastings Sunrise that also support what we're doing. But our focus up to this point has been Hastings Sunrise, and really looking at what are we currently doing as restorative and what are things that we need to bring in to really make us a restorative neighborhood. And one of the things that we identified fairly early in our initiative was we need to develop a restorative justice program. And it's called Bridging Divides. And we are in the process, or we have developed it. Now we're looking for more funding to continue on the good work. We have been focusing on dialogue circles so that the facilitators can get seasoned in doing the peace circles, but also to engage the local community and to pull people into what we're doing. And we also have 17 different organizations in our neighborhood that have come to 2 leader circles that are very interested and have bought into what we're doing, and they're helping us to develop this. One of the things that that I want to share with you just briefly is that one of our success stories in Mike had described earlier about some of the tensions during and after COVID around defund the police, and a lot of people took some pretty strong stances with the police, and the community policing centers were kind of caught in that because people just assumed we were run by the police department. We support the police, we work closely with them, but we're not the police. And so we had a community partner that we had worked with for years. They decided not to have a relationship with us anymore coming out of COVID, and it was very challenging for us and for the community. And through this process, we had 2 of our peacemakers facilitate a group between our 2 staff teams, and through that process, we were able to kind of work through some of some misconceptions, and some things that people just needed to have an opportunity to hear others and to have their say. And at the end of the process, the feedback was unbelievable. Like we really shifted our relationship between the 2 organizations. And since then, we work very closely with each other. And it really opened my eyes to really the power of these circles, and bringing people together and sharing perspectives. And it's not that you're going to agree on everything, but what we realized, we agreed on a lot more than we disagreed on. And we were able to work from that. And that really, I was already convinced it's a good idea, but that really convinced me this thing works and that we need to do more of it. To date, we also have really deepened our relationship with Frog Hollow and Peace of the Circle, and all of our people have become very good friends. In fact, I would say we're family now, and that's been kind of a byproduct of this whole thing. But I would like to thank Norm and Evelyn and Dalya and Mike and all the other people that participate in Restore Collective. And Katrina, who's done a lot of work in the background, and Nina, that's done a lot of work in the background. And I just wanted to thank everyone for what you've done, and I'll pass it back over to Evelyn.
Thanks so much, Claire. I know there's so many people we want to thank, and we really are a family. I've been calling them my dream team from the very beginning, then they really are a dream come true. So, and we are family. So thank you so much. And that's one of the beautiful, beautiful things for those of you who are doing work in the restorative field. It is bringing us together in really, really profound ways. It's transformative. Strangers become friends who become family. And even if we have conflicts, which are normal and natural, we should have conflicts. We then have the tools to move through them to strengthen our understanding and our relations and come to resolutions that are far greater than they would have been if we never leaned into them. So we are working towards restorative approaches being available for everyone. And so let's hear again from you, Norm. And I know that you are facilitating circles in many, many contexts all across the city. And I would like to give an opportunity before we pass it then on to Dalya and Mike to share what you'd like to add at this point.
I know we probably met and I'm supposed to address something. Do you want to prompt me?
Yeah, welcome to our circle, everybody. Yeah, Norm, I just feel moved. We love listening to you. You are incredibly generous with your teachings and your wisdom. And so you're welcome to share if you'd like a particular example of a circle that strikes you of an example of what this looks like in practice. We want to keep moving from the vision to the reality of it. So what might this look like in practice? And if there's something you want to share about circles or about the restorative work we're doing, you're welcome to do that. Take a few moments and what's in your heart.
Sure. So I've been lucky enough to be asked to facilitate some circles with VPD in complaints against police, generally Indigenous complaints, and facilitated 3 of them and have successfully resolved those ones in an afternoon. Uh, Much quicker, cheaper, and with much greater satisfaction than any of the other processes available. And most of them end in hugs. It's kind of amazing because, like, if you see my pronouns, I use we us because that's a reflection of all my relations, and to me the circle is a reintroduction to the idea that we are together. We sit together, we sit shoulder to shoulder, and the more we do things together, the better. And the less we try to do things alone, the better. Part of the problem of modern society, and I think the roots of conflict and confrontation and disagreement and miscommunication, is this concept that each of us is separate. Each of us is alone. Each of us is an individual by ourselves. But from an Indigenous perspective, that's not true. We are all our relations. We are all from the land somewhere, except maybe one person who may be from Mars and he's trying to get back there, but that's a whole other thing. But we're all from this planet and we're part of this planet and we're not separate from this planet, which means we're not separate from each other. And so part of the roots of restorative justice is understanding that we are in this together. And that's the best way to find solutions to the things that we don't quite agree on or we step on each other's toes. But the more we sit in circle together, the more we understand that we're people. And it's so much better to have a little bit faith in people rather than operate from fear that the worst thing is going to happen. Because that's rarely, it 1 in 1,000 chance. It's not 50-50 that it's going to end good or bad. It's usually 1 in 1,000 that it ends bad. So we restore that faith in people, in other people, in our ability to find common ground and to resolve things face to face in conversation. And to me, that's the underlying principles. And to overcome the fear that colonized systems have created that it's going to go bad, that people are going to explode and there's going to be violence and there's going to be broken relations. That is a pretty rare outcome. And so we're just applying the actual statistics rather than fear-based statistics that it's 50-50 good and bad, because that's not true. And so this is our way of restoring faith in each other and the reality of the actual data, which is 99 times out of 100, it's pretty awesome. So, and we get to do this work and to demonstrate that to as many people as we possibly can. And we use it all the time in our meetings, in our sessions in Neighbourhood House, and it's expanding to the other neighborhood houses. And we want to bring it to schools and community centers and community policing centers, and just make it available to people rather than having to phone the police. That should be 8 steps down the list, not phoning the police just because your neighbor's doing something that you disagree with and you're afraid to have a conversation. We got to get over that. So I hope that shares a little bit of my perspective. Thanks, Evelyn.
Thank you, Norm. We all know we just have to give the mic to Norm, and it's brilliant and beautiful and inspiring. So thank you for that. Again, that generosity that you always share. And you live and breathe it. So thank you for guiding us into this living, breathing of being restorative. And that's really what we are doing. You know, how do we be restorative always? And also to create options for everyone, including those who are harmed, to have choices, even in the most painful, terrible of circumstances. So I will turn the floor over to another beautiful, brilliant partner and now family member with us, also a founding member, and has been an incredible gift to anybody who gets the opportunity to be with you. This is Dalya Israel. She's the executive director of Salal Sexual Violence Support Center.
Thanks, Evelyn. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to see so many faces of folks who have, walked down this journey and path with us. And I'm grateful to be joining today from Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh territories in so-called Vancouver, right in the center of this incredible city. So I think what I wanted to maybe bring to the conversation today is acknowledging the history that the feminist movement and the anti-violence movement has had with carcerality as a symptom of women particularly and femmes really trying to hustle to have people believe that gender-based violence and sexual violence is an important harm that is real and true and can take lives and does take lives. And for a long time, our movements have really separated from the restorative justice movement here in BC that kind of solidified in the late 90s. And we are slowly working our way back together. And for Salal, previously WAVA, this really started happening for us just after COVID. So in 2021 was the first time that we piloted some work here, and a big piece of our commitment to joining the collective with Evelyn's invitation was about really committing to this as an organization, both internally, so the ways that we do HR and we talk and are with each other, similar to what Norm was saying on our teams, but also really thinking about the fact that for a very long time, we've been curious as a movement about why only 6% of survivors generally report to police. And that is a statistic in BC, but also nationwide across Canada. And we've spent a lot of energy and a lot of time trying to make that number bigger, to lower barriers, to try to figure out what are the solutions that would make reporting more easily. But I think in 2020, 2021, the penny dropped for us to start asking, maybe what if we've been neglecting 94% of survivors by continuously focusing on increasing that 6%? And what if we are to focus on perhaps providing more menu options for the 94% of people that are actively not reporting? And so that became our commitment at Salal. And we, we're very dedicated to exploring. As Evelyn mentioned at the beginning, Vancouver does not have a restorative justice program. And so we are in relationship. I see Kath on the call. We're in relationship with Just Outcomes. We're in relationship with Piece of the Circle and the collective, but also with community justice initiatives in Waterloo, with Marley Lees out of Ontario, and Women at the Center as well, who have all been exploring how we can embody restorative and transformative ways of being within our sector. And how do we work towards building foundation and investing in humans so that this is both a function that survivors can be offered as a resolution to harm, but also, 100% of survivors I have walked alongside of for the past 2 decades that I've been doing this work, their priority when you ask them about their justice needs is that the person who's caused them harm will not do it to anybody else. And so really understanding, I think Marcia mentioned in the chat, this is a way of living, and we believe that also. And so one of the ways that we can actually create people who are reliably safe is by having a restorative city framework where kiddos in schools, parenting early on, our relationship with land is about being in right relationship with each other. And that also is a preventative measure for gender-based violence, we believe, and that's how we think about things inside of Salal. And so just really excited about all of the different ways that these pieces and this way of living can offer people who have experienced even the most extreme levels of harm, and how we all get to reconnect to each other. Because I think for a long time, carceral systems, as Norm said, have made us individual and separated. And if we don't see ourselves as intra-dependent upon each other, we're really like cruising for a world that is going to be weaponizing fear, that does not allow us to see each other as fully human, and harm will just continue to increase. So just really grateful to be part of this community and collective, and to get to be able to continue this work. I am going to drop Salal's YouTube channel in the chat. We've just finished a series of panel discussions for Victims of Crime Week, where you can check out more of the work that we're doing around how we can use this work in GBV spaces. So back to you, Evelyn. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now you're all seeing why they're called the Dream Team. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Dalya, for your inspiration and really boots on the ground, so to speak, doing this work in real time with victim survivors, and an incredible example, you, Dalya, your team, Salal, of becoming restorative as a verb. So as mentioned, the framework and our work are about people, of course, and it's also about our relationship with land and water. As Norm said earlier, this really is about all my relations, all our relations. And this is a very essential part of what we want to bring forward in this 1 hour overview. So let's hear from Michael Wiebe again. He's now the Executive Director of Metro Vancouver Regional Parks Foundation. So handing it back to you, Mike.
Thank you. Yeah, and I was also formerly the chair of the Vancouver Park Board. And one of the conversations we had in the city is we actually are probably in the world one of the worst polluters of sewage waste into the ocean. and we are seen as having one of the most beautiful shorelines. However, we do have significant issues with our CSOs. And so we are recognizing at that time that we needed to restore our ability to handle rainwater, and we needed to restore our ability to be able to put our sewage water into treatment plants. And part of this restorative city, we looked at how would we restore that relationship where we handle our water and we give it to our plants. And instead of us taking the water away and then taking water from the lakes to come down and to water the plants. And so the Vancouver Park Board, the Metro Vancouver Regional Parks, collaborated on a project recently, on a couple projects, but one we're going to speak to in the project is an amazing project we did at Tatlow, where we took a neighborhood and separated it so that the stormwater and the rainwater would be separated from the home so that we could take the water from that neighborhood and restore a creek that went back to the ocean and use bioswales and plants to take the toxins out of the water and restore the water back to the ocean. And so this is a project that not only created this beautiful community amenity where the neighborhood gets this 3-block creek where they can go outside and see amphibians and seabirds and bugs and all the bees and all the stuff that you need to live a happy and fruitful life. But then I would get calls saying it's dry, and they would get mad because they said, why did we spend this money on a dry? And then we had a torrential water event, right? 2 days later. And people recognized that it took the water from that neighborhood, and instead of sending it to our treatment plant, it was able to filter it down to the ocean traditional ways. And that's how we can restore the way we handle our rainwater. But it also creates community spaces, community gathering spots. We did another one recently at Canyon Creek where we're restoring where fish can come up. And this is the partnerships that we're recognizing, is that as a city, we now have water restrictions because we don't know how to hold our water and handle it. But we also have issues where when it rains too much now, we are polluting our oceans in such a tremendous way. And so I think this is an amazing thing going beyond just justice and recognizing the conflict and harm and justice we've done to our ecosystem and the ability that we can change that. And it will also beautify and create more neighbors that are more connected. Most people don't know where the rainwater falls on their house goes. And we've created a strategy now that we followed the Musqueam First Nation that talked about how they created watershed planning for communities so that you know where the water hits your house, where it goes, so that you're a bit more careful about what goes into your drain. You're a bit more careful about what you put into your backyard because you know you're part of a system. And that's where I think Norm talks about we all need to be systems based. And once you understand where that water goes from, you're probably less likely to use that chemical in your car because you know that that's going into the creek, and that you want to show your kid how to fish in that creek one day, or that's going into the ocean and you wouldn't want to put that in the ocean. And so I think we've become less and less connected. And so I'm excited that this is a chapter. There's 2 other chapters that you'll see that are in the picture, but not in the book. And that's restorative healthcare and economies, which I think are really critical. And that's part of why this is a continuing framework and growing, because one of our sister restorative program in North Shore, they told us that the #1 client for them was the large department store. And I think it's really critical that we start to recognize how this can help our communities and in so many different ways. So I think we're going to need to do a workshop on each one of the streams because there's so much to get involved in and so much to talk about. But that's why it's so important that we went beyond just restorative justice in the justice standpoint, because I think this is about how we build our communities and a future that we've never existed before. So I love the work we're doing, and I think restorative land and waters is just one chapter of what a beautiful city could look like. Thanks, Evelyn.
Thank you, Mike. So we trust that you are now gaining a better understanding about who we are and what we've been up to in Vancouver. It's certainly exciting, it's complex, it's multifaceted, yet we now do have this clear vision that we've put together that we're offering, and we are giving examples about each of these areas in the framework, and we are certainly living into greater possibilities. So in follow-up from this virtual launch, we will be providing you with the framework so that you can dive into it. And we would love to hear from you, what feedback, how it might be sparking your world, whether it's in your own personal relationships with you and your family, your loved ones, in your own community, at your workplace. And we will be reviewing the chat. We'll be saving it and going through all your comments. And I haven't had a chance to look at it, I confess, as I'm facilitating. But if you have any questions, we will be following up. We always read everything that's shared with us. So last call to please go ahead if you feel moved to make any comments in the chat or any kind of questions. And you'll see that, our beautiful communications manager, Zoe Gray, will be inviting you to connect with us in different ways, including on social media. We would love you to help spread the word, help raise awareness. It literally does require a village. And we do hope that you'll join us here in Vancouver, but also wherever you are in the world. It's a really small, beautiful world. And we're in relations here in Vancouver, but with all of you, all over the world. And ultimately, this is an invitation to all of us join together in small ways, big ways. And in these last few minutes, what I would like to do is offer a round for our speakers for final thoughts, and then we'll end with Norm. So let's do a round with our speakers. And again, feel free to share in the chat and also respond to each other in the chat as we come to the last 5 minutes, 7 minutes of our journey here today. So other thoughts, comments? Let's go to Claire, and then we'll go back to Dalya, and then Mike. So Claire?
I don't have a lot to add other than this has been quite the journey being involved. And Evelyn and I actually went through this about 10 or 12 years ago, and we ended up having challenges around funding. And then Evelyn asked me to get back into this, and I'm so glad that I did, even though I was hesitant. And this is really cool. And so we're kind of ready to get into action. And so any ideas or thoughts or support would be much appreciated. Thank you very much for coming today.
Dalya.
Just saw Kona's comments. So true and so real. Absolutely. If we were not impacted by colonization on these lands and the white supremacy that continues to live, we would not be needing to reconnect to one another and to ourselves and to the land. And so acknowledging that these practices have been held by Indigenous folks, by necessity of particularly Black folks in the US and queer and trans people for so many, again, that calling police would never be something that was possible based on systemic oppression and institutional harm that is ongoing. And so, yeah, carrying this work feels really, really central and important to ensuring that survivors for us have options that align with their needs and wants. So just grateful again to be doing this work in a way that centers solutions and a path forward. And also, yes, everybody that is here on these lands doing this work. Thank you.
Mike?
I'll just respond to one of the things in the chat. Restorative governance is a key section, and I think right now we're seeing elected officials in a really tough situation. It is not a safe place for a lot of people to enter. I know there's a lot of circles starting to happen to support elected officials in small communities that might be culturally different or culturally not supported, and feeling like there's no real connection or support for an elected official. And so we're seeing people that would be really strong community voices not put their hand up. And that's something that I'm really concerned about, is that across the province, there's so many great people that could make a difference. And we keep wondering why our politicians make certain decisions. It's because we've made it a very difficult and unsafe place and environment to be in. And so one of the things that I do want to is continue to work on that restorative governance component. And I see there are some people running for council here today. But it is a really, really tricky space for many people that don't feel welcome with Robert's rules or don't feel welcome in those spaces. And I think restoring safe places for decision makers and for young people to be involved in those decisions and for people that have always been pushed out of those boardrooms to be allowed to have a voice is so critical. And I think that part is really big, because we can talk about all these amazing things, but it's really difficult for elected officials because we don't create safe space for them and support. So yeah, I think that's a great one for us to work on.
Thanks, Mike. And in closing for myself, before I hand it to Norm, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you for our team. Thank you to literally each and every one of you for being here. I get emotional because this is such deep work that we're doing. You know, we're calling it a restorative city, restorative work, but really it is about coming together and creating a future that we know is possible. And as you've heard from my colleagues, it's really inviting all of us to step forward in whatever ways works for you, you know, not from the old paradigm of stress and overwhelm and do. Like, this is deeply transformational at every level, personally, interpersonally, governmentally, with all of our relations. And I believe in every fiber of my body it's possible, and it's a choice we make. And so we really need to choose to create something different, something beautiful, based on those guideposts: love, respect. These are sacred laws. And the greatest of people that we get to stand on the shoulders of, so many great folks, they embodied that as well. And so we can love each other. We can end wars. We can end the carceral harm. We can end colonialism. It's going to be hard. And at times it's going to be easy. It's going to be all of it. But what a grand and glorious adventure for us to be on. It's worthy of our time and energy and commitment. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you. And I love you, Norm, and you know that. Over to you for our final words, and if you want to offer us a closing so that we can also close this gathering in a good way.
Well, I want to thank everyone for their time. The fact that you've joined us means you have an interest. And to me, that means there's a fertile soil there for some of these ideas. And if some of these seeds of ideas and questions can germinate, then I ask you to take those ideas and find the fertile soil in other circles that you operate in, and ask those questions and plant those ideas and spread those seeds to others, because this work is impossible if we try to do it alone. Almost everything is impossible if we try to do it alone, but we do it together. Call us, engage with us, build the network. That's the way that this is going to happen. So Evelyn has built a strong network here in Vancouver. We're pretty committed, pretty relentless. So they kind of won't let us stop it now. So we're going to ask the same of you, to take the seeds of these ideas and find some fertile minds around you to continue the conversation with us as well. And that's how things move and happen and grow together. Don't try to do any of this stuff alone. Engage with us, engage with others, engage with colleagues. You'll find there's a lot of them around, but we don't know unless we ask. So, was there something else you wanted me to end with?
Just a small ceremony of some kind of maybe just a few words, I don't know, a prayer, whatever, again, you feel moved in your heart, just taking even a breath. There was a lot that we shared. There was a lot of information coming in. So maybe it would be helpful for us to land in our bodies and our hearts as you continue on your day, or you head off to bed if you're in Europe, or you're waking up in Australia. So maybe just something to send us off as we
Okay.
began.
Well, we know for a fact that we are part of this land and part of everything, this planet, in fact, this universe. And so the gift of being born a human being on this planet is the lottery win of the universe. It means you have a mind and a body on this planet and these people for this little bit of time. And really all we're supposed to do is help. We're here to help the land, help each other, help ourselves sometimes too, yeah, but to help. And that's the gift that we have. We have the gift of our creativity, of our intelligence, of our dexterity and mobility and creativity to help, to restore and maintain balance. And so we can do that for each other and for the land. But these other ideas of colonized systems and of individuality, and that the concept that each of us is alone, they're not helpful. They make us feel alone and separate and powerless and helpless. But the opposite is true. We are related, we are connected, we are part of. You cannot be separate. You cannot. If that idea starts to take root in your mind, that's been taught. Babies know that they belong and they're part of, and that this is their universe until other systems teach them otherwise. So remember that you are connected, and every time you feel the warmth of the sun on your face, that energy that has traveled, 93 million miles, and it's taken 7 minutes to get from there to here, and it lands on your face with just enough warmth for you to feel it. Know that some of that energy is love, and that when you feel the sun on your face, that know that you are loved. And when you feel the water on your body, know that you're loved. And then you're never alone. So have a great day, everyone.